Set 100 years prior to the events of the original Castlevania, the series' first appearance on handheld featured Christopher Belmont, ancestor of Simon Belmont. Much like the original Castlevania, in this game, you take a linear path through Dracula's castle, whipping your way through monsters of the night to ultimately ward off the demon's gift of eternal darkness. The game handles pretty much how you'd expect, not much different from prior Castlevania games, if not identical. So if you're used to that classic, slow and hulking Belmont style, your muscle memory should serve you well here. Unlike those prior games, however, this game lacks sub-weapons, which in my opinion kind of hurts the gameplay a bit. It takes away the aspect of gaining an advantage against certain monsters and bosses. I especially missed having my trusty boomerang cross. That thing is OP. And in case you've never played the original on NES, I should let you know that in that game, heart pickups acted as fuel for your sub-weapons, but since they removed sub-weapons, I guess they thought they could use the hearts differently. So in this game, they actually function as health pickups, something you didn't have at all in Castlevania for NES. You get pickups for your whip upgrades too, and it can be upgraded twice. Once from regular whip to chain whip, which offers more damage, and a second time to enable it to throw fire. Be careful though, when Christopher gets hit, the whip downgrades, and when the whip is at its weakest, your attacks aren't doing much. I think since they decided to go with health pickups, it made sense to level out the difficulty by having your whip be affected by damage. Not a bad idea, but it can be frustrating at times because some enemies can take up to 4 hits from the regular whip. So, who do you think is the most hardcore Belmont of all time? Simon? Trevor? Christopher laughs at that notion. I mean, stairs? Who needs them when you've got rope? This guy must have the upper body strength of a gorilla. Like, there's this one part of the game where you're frantically climbing ropes to escape a bloody death by spikes. But when Chris gets backed into a corner, does he hide? Hell no. He faces death like a man.
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets!
Okay, Dracula, calm down, alright? At least Christopher Belmont got to have his rope-climbing prowess fleshed out in his very own comic book a decade and a half later in 2005. Which, unlike this game, probably had stairs. I know I sound hung up on the stairs, but there's just something about having a Castlevania game of this era without the staircase walk. I think what killed me the most, though, in this game was miscalculating jumps. Some jumps require you to be so close to the edge of one platform, you think you might fall off. And mix that with nearby enemies or falling platforms, and you're dead. Like, a lot. The music is pretty decent. Not the best Castlevania music out there, but I'll take it. And the boss battles are pretty creative. Not quite as difficult as you'd expect, especially once you figure out their patterns, but still pretty neat nonetheless. Like this whack-a-mole type deal. It took a couple of tries, but once I figured out where to stand when they poked their head out, it became pretty simple. But some of the level monsters are just cheap. Like how they designed this one part right here. How are you even supposed to get past this? Stupid bats. But hey, can't expect a GameBoy title to rival the best Castlevania games. I can at least say that this one isn't the worst. I had fun playing it. It may be a little intimidating for casual gamers, but what Castlevania game isn't? This is your basic, linear, hardcore platform game. You walk forward, bust heads with a whip, and fight the occasional boss. So wipe those bloody tears, man. This is just another day in the life of a Belmont.